Hey guys, I'm Avish. This is the 18th video of .NET MAUI with Syncfusion control series. Let's quickly review our previous session before we get started. In the previous session, we learned about text input control and how it differs from data form control. We also examined the constraints of data form control. We focused on adding entry and masked entry components in the input layout control. Following that, we focused on the button component and performed a deep dive into understanding the Syncfusion button, chips, checkbox, and segmented controls. Please refer to the previous session before proceeding further. In this session, we will concentrate on notification components such as badge view, busy indicator, and progress bar controls. The badge view control is commonly used to display notifications, counts, or statuses in a visually appealing manner. With the Syncfusion badge view control, you can easily integrate badges into your application interface for various purposes such as displaying unread messages, notifications, or any other relevant information. This control typically allows you to customize the appearance of the badge, including its background color, text size, color, and shape to match your application's design and branding. Additionally, you can dynamically update the content of the badge to reflect real-time changes or updates in your application. The Syncfusion Busy Indicator is a UI control that is commonly used to indicate the application is performing some background task or operation. This is typically used to provide visual feedback to the users when the application is processing data or performing lengthy operations, thereby improving the user experience by indicating that the system is busy. The Syncfusion Busy Indicator control allows you to display an animated indicator, often in a form of a spinner or any custom animation, to signal that the application is in a busy state. This control can be customized in terms of appearance, animation, style, and size to match the overall look and feel of your application. By incorporating the busy indicator, you can ensure that the users are aware of ongoing processes and prevent any confusion or frustration caused by perceived activity. The Syncfusion progress bar is a UI control used to visualize the progress of a task or operation. It provides a graphical representation of the completion status of a particular process, allowing users to track the advancement of tasks in real time. The Syncfusion progress bar is highly customizable and can be tailored to match the design and aesthetics of your application. You can adjust various properties such as the progress value, orientation, appearance, animation, and color scheme. This control is commonly used in scenarios where users need to be informed about the status of tasks such as file uploads, data processing, or any task that involves sequential progression. Now that you have a theoretical understanding of these controls, let's begin our coding session. I have the application up and running. Let's create an employee notification XAML file and create a list view to display the badges for each employee. So let me expand the source. Under the view, let me create a new item. Choose .NET MAUI, .NET MAUI content page, and let me name this page as employee notification.xaml. Let me replace this new page 1 with employee notification.xaml file, and it creates a simple content page with a vertical stack layout and with a label. So let me change this and change the title from employee notification. Let me add a space next to the title here, and then let me switch to appshell.xaml, copy this flyer to item, paste it here, and change this as employee notification. Change the data template view from employee view to employee notification. Let me stop this application and change the view to employee notification, route to employee notification as well. Let me run this application. In the previous session, I have been using the Windows application. This time, I am running it on an Android emulator. Notice that we have a simple employee notification page up and running. Let's switch back to the XAML and create a binding for the view model. Let me stop this application and let me create a binding context content page dot binding context, and let me add the binding context from the binding that I have just added, which is our employee layout view model. To get more details about the employee layout view model, please refer to the previous sessions. Now once I add the employee layout view model, let me add a list view control. Let me switch to the Syncfusion component here into the toolbox and search for SF list view. I may create a vertical stack layout, drag and drop the SF list view here. Let's now bind the list view and add the header items. So let me add binding and choose employee data, which we have already created. Let me add few more details to this list view. Let me add the maximum height request equal to 650, and then I will also add item size as 100. Let me also add the header template here. Let me say list view colon SF list view dot header template. Let me create a grid with margin grid. I may first create the data template. Within the data template, let me add the grid with the margin, and let me add the column definitions here within the grid column definitions. Let's add 3 column definitions for the grid. I will be adding 3 columns over here. Once we add the column definitions, let's add 3 labels here. Let me copy and paste it from my other screen to make it faster. I'm creating a profile label which will be of column 0. I'll create another label called name to display the employee name, and let's create an empty label to show the messages. Now once the data template is done, let's create the item template. Under the header template, let me create a list view item template. SF list view dot item template, and let's add the data template under item template. Data template X name. We'll name it as item template. Let's start adding a grid with some margins. So for the 3 columns, I'm adding a grid with margins, the same margins that we have added for the header template. Let me close this grid definition, and then I will add a horizontal stack layout under the column definitions and start defining those columns. Let's close this horizontal stack layout as well, and then within the stack layout, I'm going to add an image which will bind the employee image. Once that is done, I will add one more vertical stack layout under that. Close the vertical stack layout. Within the stack layout, I'll be adding a label to bind the employee name. Now we have binding as a name. The text is binded to the name of the employee. We need to add the quote of the employee as well. So let's switch to the Solution Explorer. Go to the employee info object, and let me enhance this employee info object to add employee quote and messages. So let me add a string quote and integer messages. So every employee will maintain a quote for his chat messages, and hence I'm going to add a string to add those chat messages. Once that is done, let me switch to the repository and add each employee's quote here within the employee list. So I'll keep adding all of those quotes for every employee. To make it faster, I have added the quotes for every employee in the list. Once this is done, we need to bind that quote equal to employees of I.quote. Once this is done, let's switch to the XAML file and create another label in the XAML to bind the quote. So after the binding name, we'll create another label with a font size of 11. I just want to make it smaller than name, so that I'm creating the font size as 11 and binding the quote here. Let me run this application. Oh, by the way, before running the application, let's create another horizontal stack layout after this vertical stack layout and close this and create one label here, which is going to be a dummy label for time being before we create the badge view. So I'll create a label and I'll put the name as temp instead of the binding, and let's run this application and notice the output. Notice that we now have the profile and employee name and the codes below the employee names for each of these employees. Let me switch back the code, stop the application and switch to employee repository over here and create the message as well. Let me create a random number to show the messages. So for each loop, I will bind the messages equal to the random integer. So I would say messages equal to random of next. Now once this is done, let me switch back to the XAML file, switch to the Syncfusion toolbox and create, instead of this temporary label, let me create a badge view. I'll remove this label, drag and drop the SF badge view here. Now the badge text is pretty static, so let me bind the badge text to messages. Let me run this application again to notice the output. Notice that the Syncfusion badge view has rendered the button component with the messages that we have binded to the badge text. Now let's customize the badge view. Let's switch back to the XAML file, and within the badge view, let me create core colon sf badge view dot badge settings. Let me add some badge settings to it. So we will have badge settings. We can change the position of the badge, and the options available are bottom, top, left and right, and with other combinations. Now I will choose bottom for now. Let me close this badge settings, save this file and switch back. Notice that it is changed to the bottom. I may keep it to the top right to make it elegant. The badge message are aligned to the top right corner of the button right now. Badge view settings comes with a lot of customizations. Instead of button, you can replace it with an image as well. In order to replace it with image, I have already downloaded the image into my resources folder. Let me right click and open and show you that. Open the folder. I have created a message.png. Let's bind this image over here instead of the button. So let me remove this button completely. Notice that once I remove the button, the messages are still being displayed in the third column. Now what I will do is I will create an image component over here after the SF badge view, after the badge setting. So let me create image height request. I will give it some 40. Let's inspect that and add more if we need. And I will make the source as message.png with a width request of 50. Let me close this image and notice the output now. Look at that. We have the message over here, the icon over here with the number of messages being displayed on top of the icon. We can add many customizations to the badge settings. Some of them are font size equal to 12. I can also say we have already added the position, so I can give a stroke to this as light blue, and then I will give the stroke thickness equal to 3, and let me add some text color equal to red and save this. Now let's switch back. Notice that we have the color different right now for the messages over here which are red. I can also name this badge as type equal to error. Look at that. Now we have a color red, type and all of those things. We can also define a lot of offset for the badges. So let me create an offset for the badge. Create offset equal to 10, 0, and you can adjust the offset very easily. Now it has moved to the right side of it. I can also make the offset as 0 so that the messages moves back to the top right corner of the message icon. Let's add some customization to the employee profile image using the badge view. Let me stop the application. Let me create another badge view in the first column just before the employee profile image. Let me drag and drop the SF badge view, and within the badge view let me remove everything and create a height request equal to 80 and width request equal to 80 again, and within this view let me copy this image and paste it within inside the SF badge view. Let me add few badge settings as well. I may say core.sf badge view badge settings. Let me close this badge settings as well as the core badge settings, and within the badge settings I will display type equal to warning. Now that we have binded the image within the badge view, let me run this application and see the output. Notice that nothing has changed with the profile image. Let's add some more customization like an icon similar to WhatsApp which shows that we are away or even in the Teams. Now you have different icons that you can add to a profile image. I would say icon away, and I will say position of this icon will be bottom right. We have already added type as warning, and we can add many other options within the type which are dark, error, away, success, secondary and warning. I'll choose it as a warning in the type. Now let me switch back. Notice that we now have a screen, an employee notification screen which shows the employees are away with the employee name and the status of the employee, the messages and the number of messages that we have received from that employee. This screen looks similar to the WhatsApp screen right now. Now let me switch back, and instead of using away, we can use different options as well like add. Switch back and see that we have an ad over there. For every ad you can show it as a success. So now the moment I switch back, you see here you have a plus icon visible. You can bind all of these things from the employee repository dynamically, but I will leave that options open to you guys to explore it further. Now let me switch back and change it to away or available for now and make it as success. Notice that the moment I made the icon as available, it is showing the available symbol similar to WhatsApp. Now let me add few more details after the employee list so that it looks similar to a WhatsApp application. To make the things faster, I have added a grid, and under the grid I have created another badge view over here for number of calls that we have received. I have created a settings badge view, and then I have created a pretty simple image. After adding these things, let's switch back to the simulator and see the output. Notice that we now have the call icon and the message icon and the settings. We can add few changes to show that the message count is increasing dynamically. Let me show you how to do that. Let me stop the application and switch to the Solution Explorer and employee notification.xaml.cs. Let me create one method called dynamic update. Now within the dynamic update, I'll create a badge text over here, and then I will create a while loop to increment the badge text. Now we already have a chat badge which we have created in the bottom, which is this one with the badge settings, and I will increment the badge text in such a way that we notice that there are messages coming for the user, just to simulate how the WhatsApp messages work. So let me run this application again and notice the output. Let me call this method in the constructor after the initialize component, and let me restart the application. Now notice that the batch count was 2 and it started incrementing for every 5 seconds. We can also achieve the same functionality for these messages once we do the PubSub or any real message protocol binding. For now, I've just simulated and shown you how to achieve that. Let me stop the application and switch back to the XAML file. Now that we understood the badge view, let's now focus on busy indicator. The busy indicators are used to show when a component is loading. Let's say the employee list view is taking time to load and we need to show some indicator to the end user. In those circumstances, we will use the Syncfusion busy indicator. Now let me switch back to the XAML file and use the Syncfusion busy indicator just above the list view. Now let me switch back to the Syncfusion.NET toolbox, drag and drop the SF busy indicator just before the list view. Notice that by default it has given a name, given is running is equal to true property, and it has shown the animation type equal to circle material. Now let me do some customization changes in such a way that we will first show the busy indicator for some time, and then later we will show the WhatsApp messages or the employee notification view. In order to show the indicator, let's first hide the list view with is visible property equal to false. Let's also hide the grid that we have created later with is visible property, or we already have the is visible below, so let me change that to false, and then let me show the is visible property for the busy indicator as true. Once this is done, let me add a title called loading. Let me put some 3 dots over here. Let me add a background color as white. Now once this is done, let me add a height request as well and say that it's 300, and let me run this application and notice the output. Notice that we now have the busy indicator showing up and the list view is hidden. In an ideal scenario, when we are binding the items to the list view from an API, the API will take a couple of seconds, and in the meantime we will show the busy indicator. Now let me switch back and add some customizations to the busy indicator. Let's say duration factor equal to 1.5. Let's also say font attributes equal to bold, and I will add a size factor to increase the size. By default it is less than 1, so let's say 1.2, and switch back and notice the size. Look at that, the size of the busy indicator is big right now. I can also increase the font size from the regular font size to 30 so that the text appears bigger, and then we can change the text placement from the bottom to top using the title placement property, which is in the bottom by default. I can make it to top, and I can also add title spacing to 20. Now notice that we have some spacing between the title and the loading gear. Now once this is done, after 5 seconds we have to show the list view. Let me stop the application and switch to the XAML CS file. In order to show the busy indicator, I'll simulate by adding a task delay for 5 seconds, and after that I will say list view is visible equal to true, and then we have the grid dot is visible to true, and we'll say the busy indicator is visible equal to false instead of true. That means once the page is loaded, after 5 seconds, the list view will be visible. Let me run the application and show the output. Notice that after 5 seconds, the employee notification view is loaded. SF busy indicator comes with different animation types. Let me stop the application and comment this for a moment and switch back to the XAML file, and instead of circular material, we can use animation types which are available, which are Cupertino, double circle, linear material, and single circle. Let me use Cupertino and show you the output. Notice that we have a different animation type. Let me change to different animation types quickly. The double circle will show you a double circle format, and then we have a linear material as well. Let me switch back to Cupertino. We can also add overlays with the customizations. So let me add a overlay with a gradient within the busy indicator. Now this gradient will show you a gradient as a background when we are loading the SF busy indicator. Now let me switch back and comment this gradient for a while, and let me stop the application and uncomment this code so that it behaves as if the busy indicator is loaded for 5 seconds and then the employee list view is loaded back. So let me restart the application now and notice the output. Look at that, we have the loading and then the employee notification view. With this, we have successfully completed understanding the Syncfusion busy indicator as well, along with the Syncfusion badge control. Let's now switch to the progress bar control. Let's see how we can use the Syncfusion progress bar component. Let me stop the application and let me hide the SF busy indicator with is visibility to false. Now let me switch to the Syncfusion toolbox and choose SF circular progress bar just before the busy indicator. So let me drag and drop the SF circular progress bar here, and it creates a progress bar with progress as 75%. So let me run the application and show you the output. Before that, let me switch back to the C# file and comment the entire code which is available in the dynamic update method. Now let me run this application. Notice that the progress bar has started and stopped at 75%, as we have indicated it as the progress till 75. We can customize it with the event handlers as well, but for now we will add more variables and properties to this progress bar control. So let me say indeterminate state equal to true. The moment I add the indeterminate state, you see that the progress bar is circling without stopping at progress of 75. Let's see how we can customize the progress bar with the other available attributes. After the progress, let me add animation duration to 10 seconds. Once this is done, let me change the progress from 75 to 100 so that it will fill completely. Let me add margin to the progress, 30, 0, 0. So I'll add some margins there with a height request of 200. Now let me run this application and notice the output. Notice that the height of the progress bar is increased. Let me add a progress radius factor and make it as 0.85, and I'll add a progress thickness to 0.05. I will also mention that the thickness unit is in factor, or you can choose it in pixels as well. Now let me switch back. Now notice that we have the progress bar running in an indeterminate state. So let me remove this indeterminate state and restart the application and notice the output. Notice that we have an outer progress bar which is loading, and it continues till the progress is 100% for an animation duration of 10 seconds. Now if you want to have an inner progress bar, we just need to change the progress thickness to 1. The moment we change that, you will notice the difference. So let me restart the application and show you the output. Now notice that we do have the inner progress bar within the circle, which continues till the progress is 100. The other great feature of the Syncfusion progress bar is we can add segments to the progress bar as well. So let me add segment count as 4 so that we can split the progress bar into 4 segments. Notice that we have the 4 segments available like a time duration. So let me restart the application and show you the output. Notice that we have a segmented fill progress bar available for 4 quarters. Syncfusion progress bar comes with two options. One is the circular progress bar and the other one is a linear one. Let me choose the linear progress bar. For linear progress bar, we don't have the properties such as progress radius factor, thickness and thickness unit. So let me remove them and show you the output. Notice that the circular progress bar is converted into linear with the segments available. You can also remove the segmentation for the linear progress bar to display it as a single progress line item. Now let me roll it back and switch back to the circular progress bar. Now let's say we have a requirement to show the percentage of progress as a label within the circular progress bar. We can achieve it easily by using the other customization. So let me enhance the circular progress bar to show the progress completed percentage. In order to do that, let me add circular progress bar content, and within the content template, let me customize by adding a stack layout, and within the stack layout I'll add the label. Before that, I will make the segmentation to 0 and I'll make the progress thickness to 0.1. Now once we are done with those changes, within the stack layout, let me create a label with couple of options. So let me copy and paste it from my other window and make it as track inside progress label with a height request and a text color and a width request. Now once this is done, let me stop the application and switch back to the CS file here, and I have already commented the code within the dynamic update, and I will create another property to show the label inside the progress bar. So let's name it as track progress bar event or a method, and within the track progress bar method I'm going to create a dispatcher. So I'll start the progress from 0 and I will start a timer. I will start a timer for the dispatcher. Within the dispatcher.start timer, I'll create a dispatch async method. Now within the dispatch async method, I'm going to say this dot track progress bar. I think that is the name that we have given for this progress bar. We have not given any name for this progress bar. So let's name it as xname equal to track progress bar, and within the track progress bar I'm going to say dot progress equal to progress plus equal to 0.25. I'll increment the progress over here. Once this is done, I would say this dot track inside progress bar label dot text is nothing but the progress percentage, which is equal to, let me typecast this into progress plus I will prefix it with a percentage. Now if the progress is 100, I will keep it back to 0. So once this is 100, we will say this dot progress bar, we are calling it as track progress bar dot progress equal to progress, which is the local property, equal to 0. Now let me start this application and look at the output. Oh, we have an error. That's because the method name and the component name are same. So I would say track progress bar step, and I'll call this track progress bar step just after the dynamic update. Let me do that. Let me start the application now. Notice that it's throwing an error. That's because we need to return a value here. So let me declare a variable called whether the dispatcher is disposed or not, and let me return the disposed property just after this dispatcher. Now let me run this application and notice the output. Notice that we now have the label getting incremented as and when the progress is changing. The progress bar component comes with progress changed event. Feel free to explore the progress changed event by yourself. With this, we have successfully explored the notification components of Syncfusion MAUI controls. In the next session, we will explore miscellaneous components of Syncfusion. Till then, thank you for listening and have a great day.